Welcome to Matthew's Media Playbook. I'm your host, Matthew Mangum, and today I'll be exploring how the sports media industry has evolved and continues to change with the development of new technologies. But first, let's look at where we started years and years ago. The original day of sports media are much different than what they are today. Beat reporters would go to games and write an article or two on the game, which would then go into the next day's newspaper that people would read with their breakfast and their cup of coffee in the morning. The radio was also huge, not just for music but also for sports, because people who couldn't get the game on their TV at home, or they were driving, let's say, to work or on the way home from work, they would tune into the radio station to listen to the announcers broadcast the game. Because if you couldn't get it at home, you wanted to listen to it on the radio, and you just kind of would visualize the game while you're listening to the broadcasters, paint the picture for you. Before we get more into, writing and the broadcasting industry, I want to break down how radio and print media have started to die because social media is taking over as the main source of content and basically replacing those people with social media reporters and content creators. But first, let's get started with the radio industry. Gone are the days of people sitting down to listen to the radio, whether for a sports game or a sports talk show. Some people still do this. I've done it before, but it's nowhere near what it used to be, where it would be a routine for families to do every single night, let's say, for a Yankees game. To learn more about the radio industry, I talked to Keith McPherson. He's a WFAN radio host who has an overnight show about New York sports, about the Yankees, the Knicks, the Rangers, the Devils, whatever, Mets. But anyway, I took the time to talk to him about how he's seen radio evolve from strictly audio to incorporating some more video, which actually gives shows a host a visual presence.
4 years ago, when I came into the radio, a lot of people said the radio was dying, and also people felt like the radio needed to change and evolve. And I had a little bit of a forward vision for myself. Like, I knew that, yes, I'm on audio only radio at night, but to grow my name and following and to grow my show, I need to be posting. So like when I first came in, I would post the link to the audio only app, the Odyssey app, when I would go on air. And I would just post a screenshot to show I'm in the studio. And then I realized at the end of last year that, like, okay, the morning show guys are on CBS Sports Network. The midday show is streaming live on Twitch. And then the afternoon show is on SNY. I'm not the best looking guy, but I'm not the worst looking guy. I think it would add to my show if there was some type of video angle, but I'm not expecting WFAN to produce that, to fund that, to source that, whatever. So I started to go live on TikTok during my show. I started going live on Instagram during my show via the phone. Then I got really smart about it, and I said, let me bring in a webcam. Let me bring in my own USB mic. And even if it's not the radio quality, there's somebody at home that's not at work or driving a car or in the gym that would like to listen to what I'm doing and then also interact in the chat. So going into 2025, I got on StreamYard and I started streaming my own show. And then my radio station finally did get hip to game. And they said, we need to house that. We need to put you on WFAN. So where we are in radio now, for radio to evolve, you will find that a lot of these radio shows, the radio host, many of them much older than me, thought that they would be audio only guys where they could almost half hide.
Yeah.
Now you're on TV. Now, like, you're on modern day TV, not cable, but Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it can be streamed. These radio shows across the country are giving you the ability to watch the host as well as listen to them.
It's important that these radio stations incorporate video because people want to watch things. They want to see who is talking and their facial expressions when they're, let's say, arguing with their co-host or ranting about a bad loss. Seeing the person, their facial expressions, them getting mad, them showing emotion is, it draws you in. And Keith knew that, and that's exactly what he did, as he mentioned in the clip before. And after he included video for his show, he ended up building a big following for himself, and now he's recognized by the New York Yankees fan base. So he's a great example of someone who's adapted to the changing landscape of sports media and is currently thriving because of that.
I've felt a drastic change from 2021. I'm coming up on 4 years. November 23rd, 2021 was my first show. I was relatively unknown. And people were saying that kids don't listen to the radio is dying. Now I get recognized a lot. People know my voice, they know my face, they know my look, And what I told someone recently is I have more motion than some of these radio hosts that have been doing it for years because I am more visible in the phone. There
Hmm.
are people that see my videos clipped, and that's another thing I did. I've had four different young guys that watch my show on stream, clipped it, put captions over it, even maybe illustrated it with some video, and then sent it to me. Guys that I would pay, some guys that I didn't even pay, I would pay in tickets or just in like tagging them, just off the love and the strength. They help me because I'm doing a 5 hour radio show or a 3 hour radio show. I don't have the time to clip it. And when I come home, I'm
Hmm.
exhausted. But some nights I'm getting delivery to my inbox of, hey, Keith, I watched your show. Here's your rant on Brian Cashman. And I'm able to put that out. And then that has helped me exponentially as well. Even WFAN didn't always clip my show. It was almost like we have our marquee during the day. The nighttime is just the nighttime. Now I'm consistently clipped on WFAN, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And I think it's from conversations we've had, but also because they realize Keith has a lot of followers. He's got a good online presence. If he retweets and comments and interacts with our stuff on the algorithm, people that follow him and see him are also going to follow the station.
But it isn't just the radio broadcasters who have had to adapt. Keith has been around the Yankee Stadium press box, and he's seen the beat writers beginning to create more multimedia and on-video content simply because it helps bring more clicks to their articles, something they had to adapt to and change to with the changing times of sports media being dominated by social media.
Same thing with the writers. The writers used to just be able to hide behind their words and their pens. They all need to have a social media following. A lot of them are Twitter people and have good followings on Twitter because that's a written form of social media. But even Twitter has expanded now to have the
Mhm.
live component. Obviously, you can post pictures, but videos, where a lot of these writers like Brian Hoke does a segment after the game. I think he calls it the hokey pokey or something, where, or maybe after each series, where he's straight to camera from the stadium. The stadium's empty, but he's telling you what he saw in the series, what happened, this and that. You need it. It just if you want people to click on the link to your article, the way to have more people do that is to have a following online. The Joel Shermans of the world, John Heymans of the world, they have followings on Twitter. Some of them even have followings on Instagram. I think they're slower to Instagram, like I said, because X is more of a written platform. Instagram, you type up a whole page on Instagram, nobody's reading it.
Yeah.
But I think they have become more of content creators as well, or just putting out stuff like, I don't know, video from the media area in Yankee Stadium of Aaron Judge hitting the home run off the foul pole. That's going to do a bunch of numbers where you could gain followers like that. So traditional media that has been up in Yankee Stadium, credential media that has been there writing for Newsday or the New York Post or MLB.com. Yes, those guys have also taken on social media because they want to grow. They need clicks. They want to be somebody in the Yankee universe as well.
Having a social media presence is crucial in today's sports media environment, and Keith isn't the only one saying that. A Scottish journalist named James Mahone wrote an article on how he's seen younger journalists take on social media roles or become content creators instead of going in the traditional way of joining your local news outlet and working your way up the ranks. And then I also saw a journal article titled A Deep Dive into Research Trends in Sports Journalism. And this journal article goes into extensive detail about how traditional reporting has shifted towards faster, more interactive, and technology driven coverage. And overall, that's what we're seeing from today's content creators. They may not be writing on a team or covering a team per se, like extensively, like a beat reporter, but there still are reporters who post their stand ups and do interviews with the players after on social media. I had the pleasure of speaking with Lily Beth Rondon, an Instagram content creator and sports reporter with over 10,000 followers who primarily covers soccer. And she talked to me about why she thinks social media is taking over and replacing some of the traditional beat writers that were so dominant in the past.
Like, I think as we all know, like kind of the writing portion of like journalism in sports is slowly fading. I think something I've noticed is that not only do you have to more report or like cover sports on socials, but you have to make it captivating. Like you can't just read data or like talk about numbers anymore. You have to make sure you're grabbing the audience's attention because I think in today's age with social media, like everything is so fast, people's attention span is so low. So it's like, how do you make sure you hook them into what you want to talk about? Not just with sports, with anything in like the first few seconds of a video. I just think with technology advancing, like we want things as people we're evolving to want things so easy and at our fingertips. And I think like honestly reading it's hard. People don't have that attention span. And if they're reading, they want to read a quote and then
Mhm.
make like photo, but they want the photo. You have the photo of a player, for example, and then the quote of something that they said. And then maybe you can add something in the caption. So I just think people want visual first. And then I think that that's where we're going. So the video format, photo. People just want to see things, I think, over reading nowadays.
If it isn't clear enough, today's journalists must be prepared to be on camera and film content, whether it's interviews, celebrations of the players after, or other big moments in the game. Journalists have to get their phones out and ready to record, to post videos on social media because that's what the people want to see. In my interview with Lily Beth, she discussed some of the keys you must include in your videos to draw people in and keep them watching on social media.
Yeah, so definitely quality, I think of the image is 100% crucial. Lighting, the sound, you always want to make sure you have a mic because you have to, if it sounds muffly, if it's not clear, you're not going to get anyone to sit there and watch that. The captions I found are like a good addition to getting people to like engage with your content or like kind of read into what you want to talk about because if they're not listening with sound, they'll be able to read, which I think
Mhm.
sometimes people do watch videos with no sound. So captions is, I think, important and just making sure you're presenting your products at the end of the day, whether it's an interview with a player or just you talking about the sport you want to cover, you have to make sure that you're presenting it in the best way.
Journalists, take notes. That's what you need to do to make your videos great and engaging on social media. So after all these clips and these interviews, it's quite clear that social media is the king in sports media today. But not just for journalists, broadcasters, or reporters. Fans are also flocking to social media to post their thoughts on a certain game while they're watching it on their couch. A CNBC article by Chris Hawes dives into this and uses Mark Goldbridge as a prime example. For all of you non-soccer fans, Mark is a Manchester United fan who started doing live watch-alongs of the Man United games on YouTube, and turned into a prominent figure in sports media since then. He's not a journalist, a broadcaster, or a reporter. He's just a true Man United fan that people look up to and want to hear his opinion on the team. And also, he's quite funny while he's watching the game, so fans like to hear his funny reactions to moments. And as mentioned in James Mahan's article earlier that I talked about, you don't have to be a journalist to become an influential person in sports media anymore, like you see with Mark Gobridge above. It doesn't matter if you can't write or you can't broadcast something, but as long as you can build a following and a brand, people will watch your content and they're going to want to listen to what you want to say. They're going to look for you. They're going to look to your account to see what you're going to post. They're going to always be on the lookout for you.
The way I see it changing is that, like I said, these guys are aging out like the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, the Chris Mad Dog Russos of the world. Even like Michael K. I love him, a good friend of mine, but like Michael K. doesn't have another 20 years to be on the microphone, on camera. They're going to want a younger look, a younger voice, and where are they going to find them from? Not from these, resumes being sent in, not from the traditional way they found them. A guy like Kai Sanat is able to host First Take. He didn't go to school for anything. He didn't play any sports.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a broadcast major, but he's got incredible motion and followers where, yeah, we'll throw him on because the whole thing is to entertain and bring eyes and ears and attention. It's all about attention. So if
Mm-hmm.
you can build a following, and that's what I tell a lot of young people now, they're like, what advice do you give me trying to get started? When you come out of college, you're not appealing to anyone. You might have a mom or a dad or an uncle that can help you out. You might have family ties that can put you ahead, some nepotism. But like when you come out of college, don't be discouraged by not hearing back from Fox or ESPN or Bleacher Report or Barstool. Build your own name and your own brand. It'll build slow. Don't worry about the numbers. Use it as an opportunity to sharpen your sword, get reps, practice saying your name, practice delivering your thoughts, practice looking at the camera. Even as I'm doing this Zoom right now, I look straight into the camera. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have repped that so many times. My eyes don't wander. I'm not fidgety on camera. Like use your phone and the webcams and these type of things to practice going live, to practice your speech, to practice for when you do end up on TV and a set in front of, I don't know, a million people. It'll be second nature to you. And then also to get onto TV, you need to start building because now part of your resume is going to be How many followers do you have?
Yeah.
How much engagement do you get a month? Because that's going to tell somebody whether you got it or not. If you're good, people are going to come to you. If you're entertaining, people are going to watch. If you're talented, you're going to be discovered.
Sports teams have learned that social media is king, and they started to use it more for unique content. A Rolling Stone article dives into this, explaining how every sports team now uses social media for real-time updates during a game. For example, like posting the starting lineup before the game, posting some pictures of the team walking on the field, you know, practicing beforehand, and then you could have a soccer team posting a video of the goal, the score updates, final score, NYCFC 2, Red Bull 0, just stuff like that. The more content, the better. And some teams even do behind the scenes content, which gives fans a glimpse into what their favorite players are like, when not on the field or court, like a Q&A or like a get ready with me. Some teams do stuff like that, or like random questions where players ask, if they ask like day or night more, what's your favorite season? Just stuff like that. It's really good for fans to get a glimpse of the behind the scenes content and see what the players are like. An article from Brian Casella of The Long Game just dives into how fans have been able to see more behind the scenes content, whether that's documentaries on certain teams or certain moments or certain players, or just exclusive interviews on podcasts and sports shows. These are just so important for teams growing, and most of the time that's documented and advertised through social media. Sports teams using social media is another reason why journalists have had to adapt to more multimedia content, because people aren't flocking to their stories to see what happened in the game anymore. Why would they when they could just go to the team they like, their Twitter, and see the updates on the game? Why would you sit there and, go read the newspaper on the article if you know exactly what happened because you just followed along on the team's Twitter? So, it's kind of very rare now that someone clicks on a New York Post article and doesn't know what happened in the Yankees game. What happened in the game? Let me read this article and find out. It's very rare that happens now. You can just Google it. You can go on Twitter. You can go on Instagram. There's just so much other ways to do it. I'd say that they're probably clicking on the article to see what the journalist took away from the loss. Let's say like an analysis article instead, just to see a kind of, second view on the game instead of a recap. But I mean, it's just clear that having a brand is crucial, because if people want to hear your thoughts, they'll click on your article, which is what Keith mentioned, that these journalists, they want people to read their articles. They have to have that brand on social media and post those videos, post that stuff, because then fans will know, okay, this guy is important. He's well known. He's well versed. I'm going to read his article to see what he said about the game. So it's been established that sports media looks like, this conglomerate of video content today. But what will it look like years from now? I mean, that's a pretty loaded question. It's something I thought about too. But I think it's pretty safe to assume it will involve AI in some shape or form. Doing research, I found articles by Kurt Johnson and Nick Edwards, and they both mention how AI has already been used, whether it's Sports Illustrated recaps, ESPN recaps, and CBS Sports recaps on games. And then, for me personally, I'm a big MLS fan. MLS has used AI to write recap articles on games. It's very vague, it's very basic, but they have done it. And in the top of the article, it says this article was used with generative AI, something like that. And they've made mistakes, but they're doing it. In my interview with Lily Beth, she kind of goes more into the AI and saying how she really does think it will end up replacing reporters like her because of the fact that it can do anything a human does perfectly. Like, just imagine AI reading a script for a stand-up in one take and doing it perfectly. No ums, no stutters, no, mispronunciations, just doing it perfectly.
Definitely. I mean, we saw that MLS tested an AI author for one of their articles, which started an uproar.
That's ridiculous.
It is, I agree. But this is just an example of how technology is like changing the way, and like how writing, unfortunately, at least in sports, I don't want to use the word dying out because that's a little aggressive, but it's not the main form of like gathering your sports news anymore. And I think I'm seeing it also in marketing. I think AI is being used a lot in marketing, and you have to make sure you keep up with the times, because you can, like, you and I and people on video format can also be replaced by AI. There's so many videos we see online that I don't even realize it's fake at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary, and I think you have to make sure you stand out and you do something that a robot can't do, or it'll only be a matter of time before we're also wedged out of this space as well.
We've also seen streaming services take over and replace traditional media. An article from Sanjay Reddy of Georgetown Law analyzes just how dominant streaming services are today, with it becoming harder for fans to watch your favorite game or favorite team on local TV stations. I mean, that's another reason why fans flock to social media during the games, because if their local team is blacked out because, let's say, for example, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, they can't watch it, or even same thing for baseball. Sometimes the games are on Prime Video, so these fans will then go to Twitter and Instagram as a way to get updates on the game, whether it's from the journalists or the teams themselves. So that's another reason. But based on how things are currently going, I wouldn't be surprised if streaming services completely take over and replace local TV stations. And then, before you know it, every game you need to have a streaming service to watch, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, anything. But gone are the days of radio and writers dominating sports journalism. Now it's all about how many social media followers you have and if your content is engaging enough. All aspects of sports media revolve around social media. You need to be tech savvy if you want to make it in this industry. That's the bottom line. But could AI replace us in the future? I mean, it's already starting to creep up on social media. You see AI on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that now, and Twitter. But given the way sports media has changed with technology, it would not be surprising to me at all. Thanks for listening to Matthew's Media Playbook. I'm Matthew Mangum, and be sure to check out my website for more.